folks, I know there's a history here. I'd like to get this hearing in today. You know, everybody needs to just focus on the relevant facts, okay? I know there's a history here.
What is up, guys? Welcome to the transparency. This shit is wild.
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you?
What's up, moderators? I don't even know if I'm ready for this live. This is gonna be crazy, but take it to the bank.
All right.
Take it to the
Who's
bank.
responsible here?
What's that?
Who's responsible here? Whose house is this?
Yeah, haven't been drinking or anything, right?
No.
Okay. Drive careful, okay?
Thank you.
This is with the other group that ran away.
Oh, really?
You just ditched it?
Awesome.
Yeah, those ones kept walking in the car. And the other one.
It's truly for the win.
Disc that I was given to. So there was 2 different discs. Okay? They all knew about it.
We're not here to talk about the alcohol stuff, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But this is the second noise complaint we've had here tonight within 2 hours.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
I see noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
Nothing against having a party. Once neighbors start calling in, then we have an issue.
All right, guys, welcome to the transparency. Make yourself known. Thumbs it up, thumbs it down at some point. You are going to have an opinion. I promise you that.
Like brains, and like if you need a lot of brains, you're gonna be in trouble.
Cheers. Come on in. Gifted memberships, 5 of them going out right off the rip. Cheers to Sherry D and the 5 people that Sherry took with her. All right, guys, here you go. Pay attention, follow along. We have a date, it's official. It has come out that based on what the state has provided to Ann Taylor's team, that this alleged IGG tip came out December 19th, 2022. December 19th, 2022. Tip from FBI given to MPD, let's just say Payne. All right. Now, I had to push this live back because I'm going to reference 32 documents over this next period of time to show you guys. The first document I'm going to reference is I put it together myself, and it is bring in Hector. Thank you so much for being here, Hector. Hector has a very important job, which is to make sure that you guys see stuff. There we go. And what this was back in the day, I had created, this is the in chronological order. I had put together, very important. I wanted to know what this investigation was doing. So like, what did they do on 11/16/2022? And they put in a search warrant for the cell towers. All right. That search warrant came back at 11/17, reminding ourselves that there was no historical data that came back to Bryan Kohberger during that 3 to 5. because his phone wasn't on the towers. Okay, so the first time that would have been an initial dead end link to Bryan once you would have had the name Bryan Kohberger. But referencing back all the way back here is 11/19. They're going for a bunch of bank records, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. You guys can see these dates here. This is the date that they went and got all of these records. And then the date next to it is when the return came back. All right. Now I want you to pay attention right here to 11/20. Facebook for all 4 victims. That came back within 1 day. Then on the same day, on November 20th, affidavit of Lawrence Mowry. On November 20th, this would have been the second presser. Okay. This would have been when ISP went for the burglary over on WSU's campus. Moscow Police Department went on 11/16, but on 11/20, Idaho State Police Officer Andy Huddle went for those resources. Also, on this day, Lawrence Mowry on November 20th obtained a search warrant for Reddit and only one Reddit account, and that Reddit account was Kaylee Gonsalves. Okay. The warrant wasn't served, though, until December 1st. I always said, why in the world are you sitting on this warrant that she felt was so important to go obtain on November 20th? Literally, you just start serving warrants in this case on November 16th. This in your mind was such an important warrant that you went and obtained it on November 20th, but then you sat on it. You sat on it for, do the math. What? 11 days? Ready? On December 19th, I received an email from Reddit, which contained the requested information. So you're going to sit here and tell me, so when you want to take a little box here and you want to talk about, wow, what a coincidence. On December 19th, it's right here, the same day that they are saying that the FBI gave them the name Bryan Kohberger. How did you come up with that, Lana? How'd you get that information? Well, this is a reply to the state's objection to the defendant's motion to suppress, and this is to do with the Pennsylvania search warrant for the address of his parents. Ready? Last paragraph here. The state had identified Mr. Kohberger on December 19th, 2022 through investigative genetic genealogy. This is the first time ever in this case, once this paper came from the floating skies through the internet waves and into all of our possessions, that anybody all at the same time would have received this information unless it would have been leaked from a source. But this is the first time that it has ever come out on documented paper from a reliable source, which would be that, here it is, the defense, saying that the state had identified Mr. Kohberger on December 19th, 2022 through investigative genetic genealogy. On that same day, but yet 19 days before that, and actually 29 days before that, Detective Lawrence Mowry said, you know what? I think I need to go and obtain Kaylee Gonsalves' Reddit account because it's going to have information that's going to have to do with her homicide. He doesn't say I need Maddie's, I need Ethan's, I need Xana's, I need Bethany's, I need Dylan's. I need, on November 20th, I need to go and get a search warrant, and I was able to obtain it for Reddit, and it's just Kaylee's account. Then, not on December 19th, not on the 20th, not on the 21st, and not on the 22nd, or I'm sorry, but not until the 22nd, did then Detective Mowry certified that this is the inventory that came back, and now I am, contains a true and detailed account of all property taken by me or other officers pursuant to that warrant. And has the return of that inventory on the 22nd day of December, 2022. Okay. Now, bringing us to present day before we go back in time. Everybody is very familiar with Exhibit A, which is, please follow along here. This is really, really important. Ready? Exhibit A here is the statement of Brett Payne. This is the probable cause that started off as a 1 to 3 page document, then a 4-page document, then a 5-page document. Each time that these detectives were adding to the case and getting more information, they were taking this exhibit, okay, and adding to it. What was really important back in May is Ann Taylor was asking very specific questions, and she wanted to know things like, when did a person in the FBI decide that they were going to change the year from being a 2011 to 2013 white Honda Elantra to then now we're able to say, like, hey, we're just going to include all the way until 14, 15, and 16. Okay? When? And Ann Taylor says, I don't remember the date. And then she's like, well, it's safe to say that when you guys found out that WSU had identified Bryan's Elantra, you didn't find out about that until what date? I think it was actually the same day as the day. Then what he's referring to is saying the same day that we, that somebody had said, okay, we can extend the years to include 14, 15, and 16. And Ann Taylor says, that would be December 20th, wouldn't it? And he's like, yeah, I think that that's about right. Now, why is this important? Well, here you go. So let's go back to the murder. And what I did last night is to show you guys that, all right, this would have been on the, on Exhibit A, day one, you know, Officer Smith and I entered, okay, all of this you're going to use. I then followed them to go upstairs, everything that you did at the house. All great. I entered the bedroom. As part of this investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers. So right here is where your first. So everything when you would have started to obtain search warrants, okay, your first search warrant that you're trying to go get, page 1 and page 2, everything's going to be on there. Then you're going to say, as part of this investigation, numerous interviews were conducted by Moscow Police Department officers, Idaho State Police detectives, and FBI agents. 2 of the interviews, so then you remember now Payne. So think about Officer Payne. And when Ann Taylor asks Payne on the stand, hey, what did you rely on for probable cause to get your search warrants? Okay. He says, well, he just starts trying to rattle off stuff, but he immediately talks about, well, we interviewed the 2 roommates, and then the 2 roommates' cell phones, the victim's cell phones. And the question that Ann Taylor had asked was very, very specific to these AT&T and the surveillance cameras, those search warrants, but mainly the AT&T and then this FBI agent when he was supplied things. All right. Okay, so check this out. So this is when you're going to be obtaining your first couple warrants. You're saying, as part of this investigation, numerous interviews were had. So the two of the interviews with BF and DM, both BF and DM were inside the King Road residence at the time of the homicides and were roommates to the victims. BF's bedroom was located on the east side. So right here, this is all needed to be said. Right here. So here, first stop, we needed to get search warrants that have to do with, why do you think this is in here? Because your first couple search warrants, this is even stuff that we don't have, you guys. When they say they uploaded all these search warrants and stuff like that, do you think that they were all uploaded? The answer is no. The answer is no. But remember, Ann Taylor just mentioned that there was suspects, alternative suspects in the beginning. Well, why would this be important to talk about in obtaining the arrest warrant of Bryan Kohberger, right? Because this is why. All they did, Brett Payne and Lawrence Mowry and Dustin Blaker, is they just continued to keep adding to this every time they needed to get a new search warrant. Okay? This exhibit. So here, they're going to need something on the evening of November 12th. Chapin are seeing BF at the Sigma Chi house right here. Because of this statement right here, the Sigma Chi house, do you think there was a search warrant served on the Sigma Chi house? My answer is yes. So there you go. That's the address from approximately, like, that's where they were from 9 to 1:45 a.m. Because of Bethany's statements, she also estimated that approximately at 1:45, they returned home. BF also stated that Chapin did not live in the King Road residence, but was a guest of Xana. Why do you think that's important? What do you think that this was then able to? Because of this information that we obtained here, we were able to then, okay, we need to get a search warrant of Ethan's room. I'm going through how this whole thing went. Okay. Next. Gonsalves and Mogan were at a local bar, the Corner Club at 202 North Main Street in Moscow. Gonsalves and Mogan can be seen on video footage provided by the Corner Club. So now we're going to break this off. Meaning, like, period, end. Up to this point, none of this information would be needed to be able to get anything with Sigma Chi. You already got it, okay? Now, because of this information then, on whatever day they added this information then, Gonsalves and Mogan being at the Corner Club, they went there. Corner Club just gives them the video footage. Then the family says, hey, they were on that, at that grub truck. So, right. So here we are to this point. We're here, the grub truck live streams video. So they didn't have to do anything to get search warrants for this right here because it was provided. The family is also providing who the private driver is. So we're building this information. Okay. And then what is this then when you go and you ask yourself, okay, what's these are the search warrants that were obtained and when they were obtained, right? That we know about. Cell towers. Okay, we've got to that point. Well, no, actually, we're not there yet. So in 11:16, let's hang tight. All right. We're right here almost. We're almost to that point. If the private driver was cooperating and they never needed to obtain any search warrants, here you can have my DNA. Here you can search my vehicle. You can search my house. Okay. You're not needing anything, but you're providing this information because it's going to lead to something else. DM and BF both made statements. Why do you have to say this? Because it's these statements that led you to then get and have probable cause to do then what? which, ready? DM and BF both made statements during their interviews that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 and asleep or at least in the room by 4 a.m. Okay. This is with the exception of Xana, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. Now, how do you know that? To get to this point. Going back to this. Ready? Because you want to talk about dates here. So these are your 4 victims. So you're able to get Bank of America, Cash App, PayPal, Facebook. They're your victims. The cell towers, because there was a homicide that happened, but you're saying, okay, we want to do from 3 to 5 a.m. Why are you narrowing it down to 3 to 5 a.m.? Well, it's going to be because of what? The statements of DM and BF. The statements of DM and BF is how and why you're going with this time frame. So that would have been known early on, right? Now, what statements could have possibly been made where you would see the relevance in getting Kaylee's Reddit? At first, I thought it was a typo, but now seeing how these officers work, no. But here we are. The statements, the DoorDash. Well, Lana, when was the DoorDash? The DoorDash driver wasn't on December 6th. That was when they got it back. They got it back on the 6th. Because the paperwork was that bad with the DoorDash stuff that we don't even know what the date was that they asked to go get it. But it was the return of Xana's phone, okay? And the statements again, both making statements. And so, oh yeah, Xana had ordered DoorDash. I remember that before I went to bed. So that those statements, okay, then we're going to go ahead and that's why the DoorDash search warrant, okay, it was like, we're going to DoorDash and ask for just the address, not just Xana's account. We're asking for the address of where they lived because the DoorDash came to their home. Okay, and that's exactly how the DoorDash was written up. So again, knowing this early on, they DoorDash or they do a search warrant for DoorDash. Next. Now, why would any of this be important to arrest Bryan Kohberger? And the answer is some of this stuff is not. But this is what they did. Everybody wants to talk about this PCA. So here it is for the first time. I'm telling you, I'm going to give you the dates of when they started adding these paragraphs because of what they needed to get throughout this investigation, which was very minimal up and until, if you think about it, what were they doing from 11/13 to 12/19? What was law enforcement doing until they got the name allegedly Bryan Kohberger on 12/19? That's their story. We got this IGG information, tip name Bryan Kohberger. Well, finally we found out that is December 19th. December 19th. For then, ironically, FBI special agent Payne wants to say that he extended the years on December 20th. The same day of this white Elantra, the same day that Payne was notified that Bryan Kohberger drove a white Honda Elantra. Is everybody following? So what I wanted to go down is I wanted to pin down everything that was going on in this case from 11/13 until 12/19. And I'm going to show you how this affidavit, this probable cause affidavit, in my personal opinion, proves that Bryan Kohberger's name was not found out by IGG. Again, you have to go back and forth from using these dates with these statements, okay? So here we are. DM stated she originally went to sleep in her bedroom. Why this is going to come up, in my opinion, is because clearly when she went into place, she stated that she originally went to sleep in her bedroom. What exculpatory information could Bethany possibly possess against Dylan? Is if Bethany is saying Dylan slept in my room or Dylan wasn't home that night. Because what is everything being relied on? Dylan has to be upstairs on that second floor, not on the bottom first floor. She has to be on that second floor in order to do what? Be the eyewitness that's going to talk about bushy eyebrows, but more importantly, is going to talk about a time frame of the murders. The time frame of the murders relies on Dylan Mortensen. The time of the crime relies on the statements of Dylan Mortensen. So anybody out there that wants to say that Dylan is not going to be called by the state, I think that that is absolutely wishful thinking, because there is no way she's the only person that can put the time of the crime with what they're saying that then matches the state's evidence. Now, question is when did Dylan Morton allegedly say this? Did she say this day one? Did she get interviewed multiple times? And that did she end up then saying this and coming clean on December 19th? Did she say it December 1st? Did she say, I mean, and the only people that know that right now are the investigators on the defense side and the investigators on the state side. But pay attention here. We all know what this says is that, but what are you trying to get? What are you trying to obtain in a search warrant that you even have to talk about any of this, right? Well, you have to talk about this and this timestamp because it goes and coincides with the Elantra's movements. But the Elantra was driving around at, 329. That's even more so why you have to talk about this. The state did not obtain the cameras in the area for the canvassing until November 18th, 2022. That's just when they could have even just had the opportunity to start looking at cameras. Okay. So let's see when they first talk about these cameras. We know what Dylan says. Okay. And why all of this has to be put the way that it is because this is going with this timeline of Dylan's, this narrative is supporting the timeline of the time of the crime. Okay. We've all asked ourselves, why is Dylan saying, or why is Payne saying, after seeing the mail, DM did not state that she recognized the mail? Like, really weird, huh? Well, we're going to come back to that. This leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene because she didn't know and recognize this person. When it says this leads investigators to believe that the murderer left the scene, this then is a period where you're like, okay, right here. That got you a search warrant. That now we're on page 5. And this is a very important page. Page 5 is when the dates matter so much. When Payne then says the combination of DM's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads of the records from BF, DM's phone, and the video of a suspect video as described below. This would be Linda Lane. Okay. So up to this point here, let's say that the guy was not cooperating. That's got the Linda Lane footage. Well, this just gave you, like, we're going to get your, like, we just obtained it right to this point. This just got me all Linda Lane. But I believe that he just turned it over because he was cooperating and he's friends with Scott Green. And the video of suspect video as described below leads investigators to believe the homicides occurred between 4 a.m. and 4:25 a.m. Boom. ... That means that right here is going to be when somebody needed to get a new search warrant. Okay. Well, let's see. What was obtained up to this point when you're saying the homicides occurred between this time? Because remember, 911 wasn't called until noon. So why didn't they? So think about this. Why wouldn't you do a cell tower dump on, like, well, let's see what was going, like, you don't, when did you narrow it down? Well, here we at least know this. Right here is where I believe on 11/16, okay, 2022, they were to this point right here to be able to get that they believe that the homicides were during this time. This is what that they're trying to portray. This is what this story would tell us. This is what you would think. But I thought that they didn't even look at the cameras in the area until, and they didn't obtain the Linda Lane camera until 11/18, right? Based on Jay Lotson's other document. So then it's like, okay, well then if that's the case, we're looking at like 11/18. Let's even talk about like 11/20. Because that's why Jay Lawson was asking all these questions. Like, what came first here, man? How did you start honing in on? We're reading this, but what we're realizing, though, what we're reading is this is you're starting off your investigation, and all you did every time was you just kept adding to it, right? To now, because of this situation, we're going and obtaining this for our search warrant because you're supposed to supply your probable cause. Okay. So here we are, this next, hey, someone's going to get to pen and paper or get to the computer and say, okay, start typing this up. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators found a latent shoe print. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene. Well, when was this now? Okay. When people want to talk about the second processing of the crime scene, people always just assumed that this was what? This was just the next day. Oh, really? Well, I don't think that it was. I don't think that it was the next day. I think it was between when they went over there right before Thanksgiving and when they, the next day when they put it in evidence that they added 10 new pieces into the lab. Okay. So this would be added because you went back to the scene, right? And so when you went back to the scene, now you're bringing up this, we found a latent shoe print. Okay. This was located during the second processing of the crime scene. Because my question, like, this is how you have to look at it. Why wouldn't this be up here? Like, follow this order. It's really, really important. Why I'm telling you to follow this order is because based on how these people were putting in probable cause affidavits to obtain search warrants, they kept using the same exhibit. And Lana, how do you know that? How do you know that? I'm glad that you asked, Lana. Let me show you. You go back to the pen, trap, and trace device. This was filed on 12/6/2024. And right here, this is how I know. This was the answer. So as applied to the AT&T pen, trap, and trace search warrant, Idaho allows a search warrant affidavit to support the particularly requirement when the warrant references the affidavit for probable cause. And so the state mentions this case and then says, there are no magic words for reference. As stated above, the AT&T pen, trap, and trace search warrant specifically referenced the search warrant affidavit and incorporated Exhibit A with the words proof upon oath this day showing probable cause. When the AT&T search warrant is considered along with the affidavit for probable cause and the 15-page exhibit. So I said, holy shit, let me see if I was to count backwards on this page, on this Exhibit A, and I go to page 15 of this affidavit, hot diggity damn, it's exactly where it stops. Based on my training and experience, the facts of the investigation thus far, I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Honda Elantra. This is what's getting them the pen, trap, and trace. 1 through 15. Okay? Page 1 through 15. Now, that's how I know. So continue to follow along. Again, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Heidi. Shake it, shake it. Happy New Year. Woo! Moonlight. There you go. Truly appreciate your hard work and dedication. Thank you. I appreciate that. I couldn't sleep last night. Cup of tea, baby. Pass it all around. Do me a favor. Thumbs up, thumbs down. You're hanging out for a reason. Okay, so back at it. So they're writing up here. This is for like a new search warrant. So why would any of this, what would this be needed? Like basically, why do you have to have this in to arrest Bryan Kohberger? Like you don't. Why do you need this in for anything, right? What does this serve a purpose of? Think about it. We'll come back. Okay. As part of the investigation, I'll just tell you right now, this is used to quote unquote corroborate Dylan Morton's statements that were sus. Okay. This basically shoe print they're using as to say that what Dylan said that she saw, look at it's right here. I told you somebody was walking towards me. That's the only thing this is used for. Because more was needed. More was needed. How are we supposed to just go off of the words of Dylan? Now, more was needed to obtain something. And so this was put in there. As part of the investigation, so when they say as part of the investigation, you know something new's coming. An extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvas. This is now what Officer Payne testified to. Okay. He said that we did a video canvassing and, you know, remember, and Nancy there was like, yeah, I want to talk to you. I'm really interested in this whole 700 block shit. Ready? Remember that? Where did that video come from? Who went and got that video? What's the date of obtaining that video? That's why I'm like, dude, just give me dates. Like, what the heck, right? So as part of this investigation, an extensive search, commonly referred to in law enforcement as a video canvas, was conducted in the area of the King Road residence. This video canvas was to obtain any footage from the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, in the area of the King Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspects. Okay. Please think to yourself right now, what could possibly be obtained or why anybody would be referencing a Reddit account of Kaylee's that would have evidence of her homicide and her friend's homicide on 11/20. Okay, think about that. Again, one more time to show you. Think about how and who anybody would say we need to go and obtain on November 20th Kaylee's Reddit But guess what? We get the search warrant. What could have possibly been in that probable cause warrant at that time? Okay. To obtain, well, she's a murder victim and so somebody had to say something, because they didn't even try to attempt to see if any of these other victims, nor did the roommates, have a Reddit account. But guess what? Then Mowry, it's his, he just sits on it, sits on something that would be so important. He sits on it. The 20th, the same day that they're deciding, hey, don't have Idaho State Police Laboratory. We don't want them doing work on that sheath. You need to send that to the FBI. Okay. This dude sits on this warrant 11 days and then files it. Then this comes back on the same day that they so-called IGG. Here's the name, Bryan Kohberger. On December 19th, I received an email from Reddit, which contained the requested information. The state had identified Mr. Kohberger on December 19th through investigative genetic genealogy. The state had then obtained aerial photographs of the Kohberger residence on December 21st, 2022. The state had driven, we're going to get all into this, right? But just think, where are we just like, yeah, we need to go get this Reddit account and then check it out. So where do we think that we are date-wise? So now as part of so we're doing this neighborhood canvas. And then he says that this video canvas was obtained in footage from the early morning hours in the area of the King Road residence and surrounding neighborhoods in an effort to locate the suspects or suspect vehicles traveling to or leaving from the King Road residence. This video canvas resulted in the collection of numerous surveillance videos in the area from both residential and business addresses. I have reviewed numerous videos that were collected and have had conversations with other MPD officers, ISP detectives, and FBI agents. That's the first time that we hear and see, and FBI agents that are similarly reviewing footage that was obtained. Boom. And guess what? Page 5, that is literally what they were working with at that point. Okay. 12/19/2022. You don't know it's Bryan Kohberger. This is what you're doing, but you claim, Payne claims under oath when he was interviewed by Ann Taylor, when she asks him May 30th, 2024, we're going to talk about when did you get the name, basically Bryan Kohberger, but she doesn't say it like that. She just wants to talk about this neighborhood canvassing. You went out and got these videos. Hey, where do I get these videos? You see these reports right here? You see these dates on these reports? So you would agree with me that these exist, right? These cameras, right? That you said that you used to review, okay? And she was like, I want to talk about that 700 block. Where'd that come from? You are neighborhood canvassing Ring cameras all the way the fuck over there? Canvassing is when you go around door to door and you drive around in your car and you drive around and you're taking photos of everything. You're documenting license plates. You're going up to people's doors and asking them questions. Okay. Okay, ready? Then, so Ann Taylor's first issue, she talks about in May, a review of the camera footage indicated that a white sedan hereafter, suspect vehicle 1. So what I want everybody to know is that up to this point, this is why I'm saying that I believe at this point right here, you have to have the name Bryan Kohberger. Because you're saying hereafter suspect vehicle 1. It's the first time that you hear this versus like, and the reason I say that they already have to have the IGG in is because they're saying that didn't know that Bryan Kohberger drove a white Honda Elantra until 12:20. And they're saying that the IGG came on 12:19. Okay. And so this little portion here, it's going to be a toss up in the air. And that's why Ann Taylor wanted to know about it, is when did this come and who obtained this? Because this is your little X factor where you're trying to establish this white sedan that's circling, like literally like on Linda Lane right there, to now all of a sudden you're able to go find some white vehicle to say that that's it. And how did you find it? Unless you know what vehicle it is, unless you know what you were looking for. That's like finding a needle in the haystack, man. I'm telling you though, that's right where the police were on the body cams that I've shown. But this is that problem she has. Like, who got that? Next. A review of footage from multiple videos obtained from the King Road neighborhood showed multiple sightings of suspect vehicle 1 starting at 3:29 a.m. and ending at 4:20 a.m. Now think about the way that they're putting this in. So, yep, you guys are reviewing these cameras, but wouldn't this be like a little further when you're going to be talking? Wouldn't this be a couple pages back? Like, when did you do this? When did this stuff start getting added on? So start thinking to yourselves, like when you want to talk about dates. Because the way that this would make it seem is that this would have happened like 11:20, 11:22, 11:23. I mean, that's what you should be doing. You should be going through these camera surveillances like you. So take a look. This is how they're saying they got to Bryan Kohberger. So it's coming. He then says it again. Based off of my experience as a patrol officer, this is a residential neighborhood with a very limited number of vehicles that travel in the area, which is nice that you know that. So let's start talking about people on foot during the early morning hours. Upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame. So again, they're talking about like, this is our car. It's in that time frame of what Dylan's saying. Okay, great. But now how are you able to get it to that? Now all of a sudden you're, oh, we found this movement. So it's going to matter on when you got all these cameras, right? What's the dates on when you guys got the Snyder camera, when you guys got the 700 block camera? Now, suspect vehicle 1 can be seen entering the area 4 time, which goes with that. Then it's doing its movements. Again, though, but what is all of this is to get, what are you trying to get? You're writing this in a search warrant to get what? Does this have any bearing on arresting Bryan? This part. Suspect vehicle 1 next is seen departing the area of the residence approximately 4:20 at a high rate speed. You're just showing how this is coinciding with what Dylan's saying, right? And what she supposedly said so long ago, right? Okay. Right here. Based on my knowledge of the area and review of camera footage in the neighborhood that does not show suspect vehicle 1. So he's saying, Payne is saying that he reviewed cameras, and because there was no footage of any car, he was eliminating possible routes. Okay. I believe that the suspect vehicle 1 likely exited the neighborhood at Palouse River Drive and Consagna Drive. Palouse River Drive is at the southern edge of Moscow and proceeds into Whitman County. So important that he is wanting to say that he's eliminating all of this, but that it's going to drive you right back to Whitman County. And that's Pullman. Eventually, the road leads to Pullman, Washington, right? But then he says, it's so commonly traveled back and forth between them. So now what date are we? Where are we when we want to talk about now? Somebody continues to add to this. Okay. So now, so it's like period. Law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to, oh, here we are. Boom. And now we know the date of this. Why? Well, because Payne announced it more or less when he did his testimony. When Ann said, well, when did you change the year? When did the year change? Remember? 2011, 2013. When did that year change? Well, December 20th. Oh, the day after you found out the name Bryan Kohberger and that he owned a white Honda Elantra, but it didn't meet your criteria? So on the 20th it changed? Remember? That was the testimony. He said, yep, December 20th. That sounds about right. Right? But here we're reading this because we're thinking to ourselves, just like Anne was thinking to herself, if you're reading this, you don't know these dates. Okay? And you're also thinking at the time that IGG was not used because they hid that, right? So they're supposed to be doing all this investigating, and they should have been, right? Up until they would have gotten the name Bryan Kohberger on 12/20, right? Or 12/19 rather. So what were they doing? Why was Steve Gonsalves flipping a nut on national television every other day? Because he had pertinent information and nobody was listening to him. Ready? So, law enforcement officers provided video footage of suspect vehicle 1 to a forensic examiners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation that regularly utilizes surveillance footage. Remember this part? To identify the year, make, and model of the unknown vehicle that is observed by one or more cameras during the commission of a criminal offense. Awesome. So we're all thinking that this happens early on, that you're showing this. We're not even talking about WSU shit yet, right? He's specifically trained, blah, blah, blah. After reviewing the numerous observations of suspect vehicle 1, which that didn't happen. He didn't review numerous observations. Okay. The forensic examiner initially believed, this is where the lie is going to come in. This is where Hippler is going to have to decide, do you consider this misleading and lying? Ready? Is the forensic examiner initially believed that the suspect vehicle was a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. Okay. Well, let's remind ourselves that what happened on 11/25/2022. Bolo by MPD, to the police, to other police agencies. Okay. So how I'm getting where he's initially saying this, but what's interesting is when they put the bolo out, they don't say we're looking for a 2011, 2013. So then Ann Taylor says to Payne, when did the guy change his mind and extend the year? And Payne says, I can't, if memory serves me correct, it was the same day. Because the question before that was, when did you talk to the officers at WSU that they informed you that they had found an Elantra in that tip from 11/29? And he said, yeah, that came out on 12/20. That's the question that he answered. Before then he said, yeah, if memory serves me correct, it was the same day. So on the same day, which is 12/20, December 20th, which is the day after the identification of Bryan Kohberger was announced via IGG, okay, you then hit up the FBI dude and was like, hey, we need you to look at this again. Because why? Because Bryan Kohberger had a 2015. So are you sure this couldn't be a 2015? Now, guys, I am telling you, if this is good ass surveillance enough for this FBI guy to say that he is going with a 2011, 2013, I am telling you, cannot mistake it. There's no way in hell that you could mistake it for a 2015 because they totally changed their everything that was banging. They completely redid it. So upon further review, he indicated it could also be a 2011, 2016. You guys, I'm over here still thinking though that this all took place. Okay. Well, this had to take place on 11/25, but then now this after this whole like upon further review, when was that? Well, now this was 12/20. So look at where that's at now in this whole scheme of things. It's right here. But so we're thinking when you're reading this, when you want to talk about misleading, you're thinking that this happened just upon further review, like the next day, or, he came over to us. Upon further review, he indicated it could be also a 2011, 2016 Hyundai Elantra. As a result, investigators have been reviewing information on persons in possession of a vehicle that is a 2011, 2016 white Honda Elantra. I cannot wait to see who these persons are. Persons is an S. I know one of them is Jack D. Okay. So here, we're all thinking, and so would anybody that's reading this, as in the magistrate, that this all happened at the same time. Nope, 11/25 and then 12/20 if now based on what we know. Now, somebody sits back down. Writes, investigators were given access to video footage on the Washington State University campus located in Pullman, Washington. And I've been screaming, when? What's the date? What's the date? Now, do we think that it's after 11/25 or do we think that it's after 12/20? Okay. What do we think? Is it after 11/25 or is this after 12/20? Well, you can decide on your own. A review of that video indicated that at approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, a white sedan, which was consistent with descriptions of the white Elantra known as Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north. And we all know this part, right? So, and what does he have to be writing this for? Like, what is this all leading up to? The AT&T motherfucking warrants. Okay, but hold on, because I'm going to show you where this huge lie comes in. And I just about fell over when I saw this. So we know all of this. He's describing the movements of this vehicle. But the part that's really interesting is who did this? You know how long it takes to do surveillance cameras? That's why I'm so curious. Like, when are we talking here? 12/20, 11/25. Then Ann Taylor has Payne looking at pictures and he's like, yeah, I can't even make this out. And she's like, yeah, you can't read it, can you? Again, was provided to the same. So then Payne took those WSU cameras that he was just doing surveillance on, right? Or whoever was. And he goes and gives these cameras to this FBI agent, was provided to the same FBI forensic. The forensic examiner identified the vehicle observed in Pullman as being a 2014-2016 Honda Elantra. At approximately 5:25 a.m., a white sedan, which was consistent with the description of Suspect Vehicle 1, was observed on 5. Again, here's me. When? Well, we know this is for a purpose. Again, it talks about the cameras and what it does. Then it says period. Then it says depiction showing Moscow and Pullman. And this is when Ann's like, can you read these? Can you see these? God, no. And then we get to this part, and this is where everybody and their mother, Okay, everybody and their mother that would be reading this, this is supposed to be going in chronological order because you keep adding to it. Once you're finding things out, you're adding to it. That's what you're doing. On November 25th, this is how misleading they just did all of this. Remember, Ann Taylor gets Payne to testify on the stand to say, we did not know that on November 29th, the WSU had found anything. We did not know about that until December 20th. So why are you freaking talking about this like this? Now just think in your brain why they're doing this. They are hiding how they truly got to Bryan, right? Because why wouldn't you just say on December 20th, or on November 29th or 25th, MPD asked law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout, right? Then on November 29th at approximately, why are you mentioning any of this shit? What does any of this matter? You did not use it. This didn't get you anything. What did you use this for? Oh, that's right. Because you just misled the fuck out of the person that's reading this, who is the magistrate. Because they're thinking that this is exactly how you got to Bryan Kohberger, because wait for what's coming. Ready? So as we all read it is that this is what they did. On November 25th, boom. They put this bolo out for all the police departments around there. And then on November 29th, the same day that all of the cars were moved from all the victims, same day they find Bryan Kohberger's car as well. At approximately at 12:28 a.m., November 29th, Washington State, why does any of this matter? We're thinking like, whoa, yeah. So then they reported it. They call up and they say, we queried, oh my God, here, Pennsylvania license plate, does all this, yada, yada. Great. Okay, awesome. This is his address. Okay, great. But you didn't know about any of this until, it's like, you could not be writing this. This could not be written until 12:20 or later. But why are you writing it like this is how? Because then watch. The same day at approximately 12:58 a.m., then this officer finds the vehicle too, because this person was looking for an Elantra. Again, they don't say, but we didn't know about it. They just like write it like, because they're trying to tell the tribunal, which is the magistrate here, that look at all the work we've been doing. Look at what this great policing that we did to get to Bryan Kohberger. This is what this is the whole argument. Okay? This is the whole argument of Ann Taylor, is that you made it seem to Megan Marshall that this is how you got to Bryan Kohberger. This sack of shit. In every freaking reader out there. Ready? Payne, I reviewed Kohberger's WA state driver's license information and photograph. Well, now we know that, that couldn't have been before 12/19, right? But look at what they're making it seem like. They're making it seem like I reviewed Kohberger's Washington state driver's license, it's in the same damn paragraph as the same day at approximately 12:58 a.m., WSU officer Curtis Whitman was looking for a white Honda Elantra and located 2015 white Honda Elantra. This is the address. Is an apartment complex that houses WSU students. Officer Whitman also ran the car and it returned to Kohberger with a Washington tag. I reviewed Kohberger's WA state driver's license information and photograph. Payne. Yeah, making it seem like he just then did it. Anybody that would be reading this is like, that dude is saying he just did that with this. It's in the same damn sentence. It's in the same paragraph. Next. This license indicates that Mr. Kohberger is a white male with a height of 6 feet and weighs 185 pounds. Additionally, the photograph of Kohberger shows that he has bushy eyebrows. Kohberger's physical description is consistent with the description of the male DM saw inside the King Road residence on November 13th. And this is period. Okay. Period. Boom. Mislead to the magistrate. December 20th, 2022 is when they knew this. Not making it seem like November 29th. Or did they really know this? And are they hiding behind IGG on how they found Bryan Kohberger? Further investigation, including a review of the Latah County Sheriff's Department CPL Duke's body cam and reports, which again, now we know couldn't have happened now until we were able to see that because we ran his name. Oh, wow, he was pulled over on August 21st. Bryan was detained as part of a traffic stop. Again, all of this is to omit that IGG was never used, okay? But now when we find out that IGG, well, what they're claiming is IGG was used and that we didn't know Bryan Kohberger's name until December 19th via this tip, that's when I was able to go all the way back and say, well, then none of this was written up until then, making it to the point of where I said, pay attention to page 5. They were using only up into page 5 and 6 until they started talking about on page 7, which would have been able to start getting them this because they're building up to get these AT&T warrant. But then I said, okay, well, what were they obtaining before then? We all thought that they found Bryan's car on 11/29, right? They're saying, well, they did, but we didn't know about it though until 12/20, the same day that the FBI said that, okay, that vehicle can be, that vehicle can allegedly be, will extend the years. So wait, they went after the K-bar. Tinder. Google 12/4, 12/6 DoorDash came back. 12/7 Tinder came back, one of the accounts. Blue Ridge Knives came back on 12/16. They went after the knives on 12/12. Now let's talk about the BOLO that came out to us. The BOLO that came out to us to flood the tip line. The tip line that they used to put in this Bryan Kohberger name, right? Remember I said, why are they asking us when they put out on 12/7, 12/8, be on the lookout for a white Honda Elantra? I'm like, they already found it. They found the white Honda Elantra on 11/29. Well, because Payne is saying they may have found it and they put it in, but we didn't know. Us said that we're investigating this case. We didn't know. We didn't come across that yet. We did not know about that until 12/20. Well, so then we have Extreme Networks, which Maury worked on that on 12/14. That was the whole Kaylee's laptop that was locked issue. 12/22, Tinder account number 3. Not sure whose Tinder account. These are my notes from back in the day, and I'm like looking back at stuff, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? AT&T historical data on Kohberger's phone, Officer Payne, read specifically. And then this is when, because we did not know, but guess who did know, is Ashley Banfield, when she said, God, how were you guys able to get historical data records? That had to be a pretty serious, she knew it. She's like, that had to be a pretty serious filing an affidavit. They just don't pass out that shit. And I was remembering, I was like, how did she know that? Because the only ones that came out to the public were not the historical ones. It was that you had them on a 48-hour one. That was the first one, was a 48-hour one. So So let's go back to this bullshit here. They want us to keep believing. They want us to believe here, the way that anybody would read this, is that after getting the Washington Pullman information, that you, which would have been like 11/29, that you started looking into Bryan Kohberger. But based on Payne's testimony under oath, no, we did not know his name until 12/19. Well, that's funny because Drunk Turkey said that exact date. Somebody leaked that. Because I said there is no way in hell that IGG came back on 12/19 with what they were doing in this case based on this probable cause affidavit. Then they didn't get to Bryan Kohberger with IGG. They're using IGG as a cover. And they knew that they had to use it as a cover in the beginning. Somebody knew, hey, we can say that we used IGG, or give it to, go send this off to somebody, let them, and then it's like you're double covering. That's why Ann Taylor put in this. Back on June 20, what the heck was the date? Where's Ann's little filing here? No, we'll come back to Ann's filing here in a second, because I want to show you where everybody is still probably thinking that it's, so further investigation, including the Latell County. So we did that. Okay. Bryan was the only person in the vehicle driving that, you know. His license was set to expire November 30th. During the stop, which was recorded via a law enforcement body cam, Kohberger provided his phone number as blank 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 8458. Hereafter, the 8458 phone as his cellular telephone number. Investigators conducted electronic database queries and learned that the 8458 phone is a number issued by AT&T. And that's where Jay Lawson said, wait, what did y'all do to figure that out? And now we know this, guys. Think about it. Right here. This has to be after 12/19, which is now going to be really, really interesting. 12/19, you're doing all of this shit. Okay, who's this Bryan Kohberger guy? Who's this Bryan Kohberger guy? All right, we'll look him up, right? Boom. First thing that they said they go for is, okay, we run him through. Okay, yep, we pulled him over a couple different times. Let's check out our body cams. We check out this body cam. We check out the August 21st one. And then during the August, or I'm sorry, during the August 21st one, he gives his number up. We have his whole number. So now we have his phone number, which is really, really important because Jay Lawson brings that up. But so does in this pen, trap, and trace. Just filed. When the AT&T search warrant is considered along with the affidavit for probable cause and the 15-page exhibit A, that's how I know that it was 15 pages, and at that point it stopped to get what they're getting. The warrants are sufficiently particular and valid. In fact, Corporal Payne set forth why he believed the defendant's cell phone would contain evidence of the crime, specifically why each category of digital evidence listed on the warrant would reveal such information. And then this is my error to say, wait, first, probable cause existed to seize all items of particular type described in the warrant. Wait, the specific phone number is listed in the affidavits? Yeah, not until when? 12/19 to 12/20 is when you only had his phone number, right? So there is no affidavit that could have been filed with Bryan Kohberger's phone number because you didn't have it yet, right? So that's how I'm eliminating and showing that all of this stuff could have never been written up until when? 12/19 or later. So we know that page 10 couldn't have been wrote up. We know that page 9 what they're saying to us couldn't have been wrote up yet because they didn't know this existed until 1219, right? Or I'm sorry, 1220. So you're left with to page 8 when you want to talk about that you have this white car, but you change the year here to extend. Remember, well, could this be this year? I mean, what the hell? And that's when I was like, no, we got to keep going because they wouldn't have had any of this information until when he decided to extend this. That came out when he asked him on 1220. Upon further review, he indicated it could be also a 12. So then this couldn't have been written until 1220. So that's how I was able to keep going back to these numbers and keep going back to see that up until December 19th, you only have pages 1 through 5, possibly if you really 1 through 6 with this sentence right there, period. That's what would have been provided on every single search warrant up to that point. If any search warrant up to that point has other information, I would love to see it. Because it's not supposed to be known yet. Based on the testimony, based on the documents. So then I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Like, the specific phone number is listed in the affidavits, and the individual categories of digital information sought are set forth in detail, including why probable cause existed to search those digital files. See the AT&T Pen Trap Trace search warrant pages 3 through 7, which specifically detail what actions investigators were allowed to take. No shit. But I wanted to see, and it wasn't until this document when they said, because then Ann's team comes back and says, wait a second, you guys never provided the pen with an affidavit. You're just providing it now in your response by saying this when you're mentioning that you used the first 15 pages of Exhibit A. And that's why Jay Lawson lights them up. Or was it Elisa Mathis? One of them lighted up, and it was freaking gold. Where is it? It's right here. Which just got filed. And the reason that Elisa says the words proof upon oath are not synonymous with the affidavit for search warrant and its exhibits are hereby incorporated. Because that's what the state says right here. The state says, comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latell County Prosecuting Attorney's Office respectfully. And here's our reply to what, not this filing, but the filing before it. And it says here, this is our argument. As applied to the AT&T Pen Trap and Trace search warrant, Idaho allows a search warrant affidavit to support the particular requirement when the warrant references the affidavit for probable cause. And that's when it's like, wait a second, you didn't. This is what they said. There's no magical words reference. As stated above, the AT&T Pen Trap and Trace search warrant specifically referenced the search warrant affidavit and incorporated Exhibit A with the words proof upon oath this day showing probable cause, period, end quote. And this is why the state or the defense is saying, wait, are you people on crack? Then they just tell on themselves and say, when the AT&T search warrant is considered along with the affidavit for probable cause, yeah, if you would have provided it, but you're providing it now with your reply or your response to your objection to the objection. What the fuck is going on? You did not supply this. How do you know that, Lana? Well, let's take a look. Ready? The warrant contained no language that the affidavit was incorporated. In misguided fashion, the state asserts that there is no requirement for specific language and relies on this case, which upheld a warrant where, quote unquote, the opening paragraph of the warrant unambiguously referenced the affidavit and sworn testimony of Detective Sellers as the basis for the warrant. So that's the case that they're using where they're saying, like, look at, no, we wrote this right here. No, in this case, no such words exist in the warrant. The affidavit nor any of its exhibits were incorporated. On page 3, in reference to the installation of a pen register and or trap and trace device, there is language that states the court finds that Brett Payne, investigating officer, and Ashley Jennings, senior deputy prosecutor, has certified to the court that the information likely to be obtained by such installation and use is relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation. Period, end quote. See States Exhibits S2, page 3. While this language is unique to the trap and trace, like meaning this is the only time that they've ever wrote this. That's why, while this language is unique to the trap and trace warrant, it does not incorporate the search warrant affidavit or any of its attachments. And so I said, how in the world did Megan Marshall sign off on this shit? If you didn't have the probable cause affidavit with the exhibits. And what they mean by that is it's statement A, it's Brett Payne's statement, which is exhibit A, pages 1 through 15. And that's why when it says right here, it did not attach the documents that provided clarity that the search warrant affidavit was not included with the search of the search warrant or with the service of the search warrant. Those documents are therefore included in this filing as attachments. Where supporting affidavits does not accompany the search warrant at the time of execution, the details set out the affidavit does not cure any deficiencies. So they're saying you didn't provide AT&T when you served the search warrant with the probable cause affidavit and the exhibit, meaning the statements of Brett Payne 1 through 15. An affidavit is considered to be part of a warrant and therefore potential, you can curative of deficiencies if and only if one or two of these are met. The affidavit of Corporal Brett Payne swears that the warrant was served on 12/23/2022 by sending to FBI for service. Now, you're going to have law enforcement people that are saying you're allowed to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. And here clearly you have lawyers that are saying, see this language, see Exhibit A, page 2. An FBI form similarly reflects that a prospective location tracking search warrant that includes a pen registry trap and trace for telephone number on the behalf of the Moscow Police Department was served on December 23, 2022. On or about December 23, 2022, an AT&T, the form that was filled out, it was completed. So see that page. Attached to the AT&T form is the pen, trap, and trace search warrant at issue. The affidavit in support of search warrant not included. And now what we are saying here is that they're then showing, ta-da, which is this, okay? First of all, he did not execute any search warrant. The FBI did, number one. Number two, for you to have the affidavit of Lawrence Mowry on the top of a page that you have in your possession is so against protocol. I, Corporal Brett Payne, being duly sworn, how do you have this man's name up top? The warrant was served on 12/23/2022 by sending to FBI for service because the FBI actually served it. Then I paid attention to these times. So Payne and Ashley Jennings go and see Megan Marshall on the 23rd. So think about this. They just got the name Bryan Kohberger on the 19th. Just found out his car on the 20th. Okay. And this is the pen, trap, and trace. Like this supposedly comes after the 2 AT&T warrants, right? But let's take a look. So at approximately 5:07 p.m., so that would be that'd be West Coast time. That means it's 8:07. That means if at 5:07, if you just gave it to Nick Balance, which we're going to find out that, well, we're going to see how this played out. I'll show you. Then Nick Balance or whoever with the FBI needs to then serve it and get it on over to AT&T, right? Okay. Okay. Now, Megan. So first of all, AT&T is on the East Coast. So when it's 5 o'clock on the West Coast, it's 8 o'clock, way past 9 to 5 time. All right. But you're going to sit here and tell me that this court they issued a search warrant and the said search warrant having been served according to law. So, and then the return of the warrant having been duly sworn. So this was like the order coming back. Here is the okay, right here. In the above title matter, the court having heretofore issued a search warrant and the said search warrant having been served according to the law and the return of the warrant having been duly made as directed in said search warrant to this court and a written inventory of the property found and seized having been duly made and taken before the undersigned judge and filed herein. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordered that the said police officer shall deliver or cause to be delivered the property described in said inventory to the Moscow Police Department or such other law enforcement agencies. So that was that. Where's the... Okay, so here's the FBI. He doesn't put a timestamp on this, but he's saying that on December 23, this is Nick Balance, okay? And the Federal Bureau of Investigation served a prospective location tracking search warrant that included a pen, registered, trap, and trace for telephone number, blah, 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 on behalf of the Moscow Police Department, okay? They do that all the time. North Palm Beach is Eastern Standard Time Zone. Nick Balance is not the name on here. Seth Footlick is. Seth is with the FBI. This is why Payne up there, when he's like, I have no idea these people's names. I don't know these people. Because Payne has not a goddamn clue what's going on. This agency was in this FBI. It says Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is in Mountain Standard Time. Okay. So Mountain Standard Time, we have no idea when this was served, but it was definitely not served on the 23rd. It was served on the 24th. Okay. This warrant was served on the 24th, not the 23rd. It was served on the 24th. FBI, Salt Lake City. And here, when it was date, time, sign, and stamp. Now, remember, this is where it's going to get interesting. I want to know, okay, if Seth is doing this, why this is Seth's name and why this isn't Nick Balance's name. This is my personal question I have. Because Seth does this and does it from the Salt Lake City. That's where he's at. And they're putting down that this was signed at this time. And it was Mountain Standard, which is just super interesting. I think that they have this wrong, but whatever. It's PST. is what it should be, because this was all handled in whatever. Let's leave it for them like this. Email records to Nick Balance. These are the historical record services. Okay. This is for your pen, register, trap, and trace. And this is your historical records. Two separate things. All the information that was going to be this email, secondary email, but everything is to be sent to Nick. But yet Seth did all of this because Officer Payne said Nick was in an office that was located 30 feet down from Payne when all of this was happening. Okay. But Payne didn't know anybody's name. So non-disclosure order included past 7 days of timing advance data as available. Please include cellular analysis survey team, Special Agent Sean Kennedy, as well as Special Agent Nicholas Balance and Anthony Vega as additional contacts. Thank you. And you're telling me Payne, the only thing that he had to do in this case that had to do with Bryan Kohberger would have started on 12/20, 12/19, 12/20, and then he's automatically ripping off this type of stuff on 12/23, and he couldn't remember any of this when he was asked to take the stand and under oath. Now, when you then go to the actual search warrant and order authorizing Brett Payne, having given me proof upon oath this day showing probable cause establishing grounds for issuing a search warrant and probable cause to believe that there are records related to the crimes of homicide, okay, and are currently under the control of AT&T for historical call detail records for the telephone number with cell site for the voice, SMS data between this to this. And then here's what people don't get. Where, so this is page. There you go. There's this. Further, there is probable cause to believe that the use of a pen registry and or trap and trace device will lead to law enforcement acquisition of real-time pen, register, and or trap and trace information. And that this information would be evidence related to the crimes of homicide, which are currently under the control of AT&T. The court finds that Brett Payne, investigating officer, and Ashley Jennings, senior deputy prosecutor, has certified to the court that the information likely to be obtained by such installation and use is relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation. And all we're asking for is what? What did you provide them? And here's your bang. That means they told us it was Exhibit A of Payne, and it was pages 1 through 15. 1 through 15. Pages 1 through 15. Because it was not included. They just say this, like pursuant to the court finds that the identity of the person to whom the phone is leased or in whose name is listed to the phone line to which the pen, register, or trap and trace device is to be attached is Bryan Kohberger. The identity of the person who is subject of the criminal investigation is Bryan Kohberger, who resides at 1630 Northeast Valley Road. The phone number and the physical location of the phone is currently Albright, Pennsylvania. How do you know that? How do you know that? If you don't have eyes on Bryan Kohberger? Well, they did. So then the next sentence is, of why you were attempting to get this. And you say that you're getting this because you don't know where he is. But attached with this to get this search warrant, there was no Exhibit A 1 through 15. That's what the problem is. Is that so? Megan Marshall, what was provided to you? And it's just very simple. Like, what was provided to you? And Megan Marshall says it. She says that what was provided to me was the court finds that Brett Payne, investigating officer, and Ashley Jennings, senior deputy prosecutor, has certified to the court that the information likely to be obtained by such installation and use is relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation. Further, there is probable cause, and this is me, there is probable cause to believe that the use of a pen registry and or trap and trace device will lead to law enforcement's acquisition of real time, and that this information would be evidence related to the crimes of homicide. How? What? Okay, let me just say, okay, there is probable cause, and then this has been the question. What is that probable cause? And it's pages 1 through 15 of the PCA. That's what they used. So coming now back to this, on page where we left off right here, page 10. So on 1219 to 1223, this stuff was added. But one that's reading this would never have known this. Okay, so on October 14th, Bryan Kohberger was detained as part of it. So they put this in there. Upon reviewing the body cam, Kohberger was the sole occupant and was driving a white Honda Elantra. Then on November 18th, according to Washington State licensing, Kohberger was registered 2015 white Honda Elantra, received prior to the time. 2015 was registered, which does not require a front license plate. But you guys notice what it doesn't say? It doesn't say that Bryan Kohberger's, where does it say that Bryan Kohberger's in any of these body cams that his front license plate is missing? It doesn't. Just because Pennsylvania, just like Ohio, we don't have to have a front license plate. People have them, but we do not have to have them. So think about it again, what you're drumming up as probable cause here is that just because PA says that you don't have to have front license plates on your vehicle, that does not say anywhere in here that Bryan didn't when they pulled him over. Okay, this is what was provided. But how I learned this is my communication with a Pennsylvania officer who is currently certified in the state of Pennsylvania. Based on my own experience and communication with Washington law enforcement, I know that Idaho and Washington require front and back license plates to be displayed. Now, investigators believe that Kohberger is still driving the 2015 white Elantra because his vehicle was captured on December 13th, 2022 by a license plate reader in Loma, Colorado. Again, making this completely seem like they're using all of these things to stay away from what? IGG, when they really knew his name. But here's the big daddy. Kohberger's Elantra was then queried on December 15th, 2022 by law enforcement in Hancock County, Indiana. This is where I fell out of my chair, and I am so proud to say this to you guys. I fell out of my chair when I said, oh my God, no way. Can you guys believe that Bryan Kohberger was pulled over 2 times back-to-back in a 10-minute period? And it had nothing to do with this case? Because they didn't know that Bryan Kohberger existed on December 15, 2022. Okay? This is just things that they were learning over the period of, oh my God, we got his name on December 19th. Then we start, looking him up. Ready? So check this out. Ready? So Brent Kopaka is miraculously just shot up on the block. Because let's just go in there to a building that has all these people still in it, and let's just freaking get in a shootout with people in an apartment complex that's literally on WSU's complex. I mean, what? That's what happened. That's a time period that's going on right here. So on December 16th, at approximately 2:26 p.m., surveillance video showed Kohberger's Elantra in Albright. Okay. This is just things that they were able to gather. So again, and this is what I think that I don't know when they decided to, or if they attempted to get Bryan Kohberger's banking information. Okay. And if they were then able to see where he was spending his money. Did he run his card at the CVS? And then they were like, okay, we're going to go and get, remember I told you guys that? And one of the things that they were able to follow, like they were following him into CVS, or was it they really weren't following him to CVS? But maybe the reason that Jay Lawson feels like they were is because he knows that they didn't serve any search warrants on his banking records to be able to then. So just think about where we're at here. December 19th, December 20th, December 21st. Okay. December 22nd, December 23rd. On December 16th, what is up, TNT? What is up, Sleuthy Goosey? Woo! What is up, TNT subscribers, members? Let me catch a look here. I'm going to go through all of these in a second. I'm almost done. Oh, God. Jen's just giving everybody green gift wrenches out. I mean, I said green memberships out. Everyone's going green like aliens. And Angel says, I want to know when Payne later found the sheath, but Blaker learned from ISP. Why didn't his partner inform him he found it? Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all that. Okay. So here, then the sole occupant of the vehicle was a white male whose description was consistent with Kohberger. Kohberger has family in Albright, Pennsylvania. Learned through a TLO search and locate tool database query. Based on information, now think about this. Now we have to find, now during this time, this is where it's just bomb dropping here. Now, again, 1219. Okay, because this is still, we're still on that page 11. So this was all the way used to get the pen trap and trace, which was done on this day. Same thing with the AT&T. And remember when Ann Taylor was like, well, when did you start writing? Hey, when did you start writing up warrant number 2, Payne? Well, right after I got warrant 1 returns back. Ah, what a fucking loser to say that. What a dipshit. Okay, so you didn't go and test any of the, drive test or what a total cocksucker. Hold on one second. I need some of my throat. Here's my water. Just start chugging vodka and water. Cheers. Cheers, big ears. Okay, ready. Okay. Sorry guys, this is too good. Been working all my life for this. Here we are. Based on information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Now, pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department. We learned that Bryan Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also showed Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. I'm sorry, you guys. Information I have, is that Bryan Kohberger was in touch with the Jenkins guy, and that was in April of 2022. Actually, the spring before getting there. Isn't that when you would be doing it too, so that you would have a job that fall? Okay. Let's find everything. So think about this. Let's find out everything we can. Remember, there's all these other suspects. There's all these other suspects. And then here's a guy that allegedly we don't get his name until 12/19 that I'm doing his. Think about that. And then you have to like sit down and do all of this stuff for surveillance. I said, there's not enough time to do all of this. There's not enough time. Like, who's looking at these surveillance cameras? Like, why were you already on this WSU kick and that the person lived in that their straight road map to WSU? That came on page 5, man. Kohberger wrote in his essay that he had an interest assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey. Shut the up. Okay, now check this out. You want me to believe, okay? You want me to believe that this is just a coincidence. Ready? For all of you guys that just joined us, earlier on the broadcast, I said, remember I told you this is going to come up and it's going to be like a pow moment? Remember I was freaking out over this Reddit search warrant. I said, who goes and gets a affidavit, writes it all up, and obtains a search warrant for Reddit on November 20th, and the only one they go for is Kaylee? But it was so important. That was the second day presser. The second, there was one on the November 16th, and then one on November 20th, and then one on November 23rd, that the police came out on video recording to talk to the media and talk to the public. Murder on the November 13th. But on November 20th, it was so important to go get a search warrant for Reddit for Kaylee's account, but that this man, Lawrence Mowry, sat on it. You want me to believe that he sat on it? Or did somebody say, oh, no, don't serve that yet. Don't serve that yet. It just sat on it and didn't serve it until December 1st. Who does that? That didn't happen with any search warrant in this case, except for this Reddit one. And then the day that it comes back is December 19th, the same day that the state had identified Mr. Kohberger on December 19th through IGG. Shut the fuck up. Wouldn't you want everybody's Reddit account to see if anybody else had a Reddit account? Why were you only wanting Kaylee's Reddit account? But it was so important that somehow it just sat on your desk for 11 days before you walked your happy ass down there. And like, I obtained a search warrant, but you waited 11 days to actually serve it. Why? Because we have to wait, because we're going to use, because this guy knew to wait. We're going to use when we wait, hold on. Okay, now we found Bryan Kohberger's car on November 29th. Now I can serve it. But he didn't understand his assignment. But I believe that this is a huge mistake here. When you want to talk about people doing shady ass shit. Who would go and obtain a search warrant in a quad homicide? Obtain it. You obtained it on November 20th. Who's even telling you? You guys know what they were going for in search warrants at that time? A Reddit account? Why? Who's even saying, you need to go and get Kaylee's Reddit account, man? You need to go get Kaylee's Reddit account. Who's providing that information? But yet not go and get any of these other kids' Reddit account. I believe it's going to come out. If Kaylee liked true crime, like people are saying she liked true crime, they don't put everything in their affidavits, guys. That's not what they do. The state has some bombs coming. But the question is, how do they have their bombs? How do they have their bombs? Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey. How did you find that? What made you even think to find this, to look up this? Oh, we got Kaylee's back on December 19th and we saw who she was writing. That's how we found it. How do you think that they found it? But listen to what they want to say on how they found it, which can be found by an open source internet search. It was so easy to find Bryan Kohberger's Reddit survey, which could be found by just an open source internet search. So you just searched Bryan Kohberger. You should have flat out, let's just search his name on Google. Well, hopefully you got some screenshots of this, because when I do my stuff to catch trolls, I screenshot for days. So there should be so many screenshots of them just being like, oh my God, look at what I got. Right? So again, the survey asked for participants to provide information to, quote unquote, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision making when committing a crime. And everyone's like, oh my God, what a sick bastard. That's total probable cause, man. Well, I don't know. He's a professor at a university because he's a TA, right? And this is what he's doing for like a living. So like, no, then once you say like that, then this is nothing. Why would this be important? Did Kaylee respond to that or something like that? Then, next up, again, we're only to page 11 here. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence. Yes, you did. And you did that on 11/16. Okay. And what you did, so you asked for November 13th between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. because of what Dylan said. And so after determining that Kohberger was also associated to both, the 2015 and the phone, right? Investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. Then, hey, let's look up and see who's on the cell towers is using the device in the area during the time of the murder, right? And this is where this would have been a roadblock for them, okay? Meaning that Bryan Kohberger is not on, his phone number is not on there from 3 to 5. And now if you go back and you say, do you guys remember when Jay Lawson said, so their probable cause then, which is to get these warrants for Bryan, because everything before this is, none of that's for Bryan. This is to get Bryan. And search warrants is based on my training, experience, and conversations with law enforcement officers that specialize in the utilization of cellular telephone records as part of investigation. Individuals can either leave their cell phone turned or leave their cell phone at a different location before committing a crime, or turn their cell phone off prior to going to a location to commit a crime. This is the probable cause. This is done by subjects in an effort to avoid alerting law enforcement that a cellular device associated with them was in a particular area where a crime is committed. This is why Ann Taylor asked Payne, what did you use to obtain probable cause for your AT&T warrant? You guys remember that question? And he's like, the statements of the surviving roommates, the cell phone records of theirs, what else? What? The fact that he wasn't on the towers between 3 and 5. Well, do you want to know what You want to know what police officers say to me when I've tried to say that to somebody? In fact, you want to know what a police officer said to me when I said, hey, why is there this drug dealer who doesn't live in the area on the cell towers from 7 to 8 during the murder of Brian Drake and calling him back-to-back times, and he's never called him before? Do you think that's relevant? No, I don't see why are you mentioning like where he's located? What? Because he doesn't live in that town. So here he's calling, and he's actually on the same cell towers as Brian Drake's phone is. He's a drug dealer, and he's calling him back to back. Is that important? Wouldn't that wouldn't your eyeballs light up? Yeah, that's really interesting. After his wife just said that the sheriffs were looking for his cell phone and wanted his cell phone number, that then his phone receives back-to-back phone calls from the town over 30 miles away, person that's been popped for selling meth. So, but here, Brian's number isn't seen on it, but no, guess what? We have a reason for that, and we're going to write that here because people will just leave their phones elsewhere. Well, but I thought he had his phone on him, right? Because then you started tracking that phone before and after. Well, we're not there yet, though, but so this is what they say. And then says, on December 23rd, 2020, I applied for, and this is where I know we can stop right here. Exhibit A, pages 1 through 12. That is what was used, and that's why you can say this. This is why Jay Lawson laughs his ass off, this is wow. Based on Payne's training and experience, this is why we need some training records, okay? This is what the probable cause was right here in order to get your AT&T first warrant. Because then it says, on December 23rd, 2022, I applied for and was granted a search warrant for historical phone records between November 12th. So clearly you're not. So then you sat back down. That's why when Ann Taylor's like, well, when did you write up the second warrant for AT&T? Well, right after I got the first return. Okay, so he sits back down right here. So this is historical, 48 hours. That's this right there. And then here, this part on December 23rd, 2022. Now this is your second, okay, approximately 24 hours preceding. Boom. On December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records for the 8458 phone from AT&T. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger. Well, you knew that. You're like, it's surprise. What were you talking about? This is like, do you not know who's writing this part now? Because this is like somebody's just doesn't know what maybe any of this says. So they're like, on December 23rd, pursuant to that search warrant, I received records from the 8458 phone from AT&T. These records indicated that the 8458 phone is subscribed to Bryan Kohberger at an address in Albright, Pennsylvania. And the account has been open since June 2023. These records also included historical cell site location information, CSLI, for the 8458 phone. After receiving this information, I consulted with an FBI special agent, Nick Balance, that is certified as a member of the Cellular Analysis Survey Team. I consulted. This is where, dude, oh God, January 23 is going to be lit as a tit. I consulted with. Yeah, I can't wait to see how this goes down. Members of CAST are certified with the FBI to provide expert testimony in the field of historical CSLI and are required to pass extensive training that excludes. Okay. From information provided by CAST, I was able to determine estimated location for, and then right here, this is what's coming down on January 23rd, 2025. The FBI is going to say, we did not provide him with any from information provided by CAST. Well, we didn't provide him. What do you mean? So you guys didn't go and do a drive test, right? No. Because I was able to determine estimated locations for the 8458 phone from November 12th to November 13th, the time period authorized by the court. He estimated. I said, you fucked, Payne. You are one motherfucking fuck person right here. The FBI is not co-signing this. Now think back to this now. Now let's go back to this little handy dandy. We're still just on page 13 because we have not yet gotten to page 15 where we need to stop, because pages 1 through 15 is how you got that pen, trap, and trace. And this is where Cyray's like, you already knew where he was located. You got the records. Why are you, what are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you cannot say that you're getting to locate somebody that you can't find. And none of that's true. So on November 13th at approximately 2:42 a.m., the 8458 phone was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to so many other locations too. Like, normally you say like is consistent with or was utilizing cellular resources that provide coverage to this, but it also provides coverage in a huge ass area. Okay. Hereafter, the Kohberger residence at approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that provide coverage southeast of the Kohberger residence. Remember, this is going to be all just him, meaning Payne from this whole part. Consistent with the 8458 phone, it's consistent with leaving the Kohberger residence and traveling south through Pullman, Washington. This is so misleading here because it's also consistent with so many other things. This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. Oh, is it? Which one? Which Elantra, man? Which one? The 2011? Which one? Which one? This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. Wait, what white Elantra? You mean suspect vehicle one? Which one? This is the first time I realized that he made a huge mistake there. Which one? This is consistent with the movement of the white Elantra. At approximately 2:47 a.m., the phone stops reporting to the network, which is consistent with either. Now, usually means two items when you say either A or B, right? Either is usually, either A or B, which is consistent with either the phone being in an area, 1, without cellular coverage, 2, the connection to the network is disabled, such as putting the phone in airplane mode, or 3, the phone is turned off. What about if it's just on another cell tower? What would that be consistent with? It's just a question I have. When you're saying it wasn't on any, because here at approximately 2:47 a.m., the 8458 phone stops reporting to the network. Okay, so when you say the network, you mean like it ain't reporting to anything. How did you determine that? Who determined this? Like, how is any of this like, yeah, this sounds great. Wouldn't Megan know, like, wait, so, okay. The 8458 phone does not report to the network again until approximately 4:48 a.m., at which time it utilized cellular resources that provide coverage to Idaho State Highway 95 south of Moscow, Idaho, near Blaine. Again, now this is where we have to understand. Remember, like, when did you do all of this work to figure this out? How long did it take you? Because remember, ready for this? We got to get this pen, trap, and trace, right? This is what's going to get you the pen, trap, and trace, right? Which you, Mr. Brett Payne, at 5:07 p.m., you served the search warrant. So, but you got it at 4:53, I think. So, what time did you get the 2 AT&T search warrants back? And that so by 4:53 p.m., you had all this data already all figured out. Drive test. How did you confirm? What did you do for all of this? When did you do this? Right? Now we get to, this is page 14. Okay. And it's consistent with the phone traveling back to go. Are consistent with, based on a review of the 845 phone's estimated locations and travel, the 845 phone's travel is consistent with that of the white Elantra. I just think that, wow. So this phone is just not reporting to the network numerous times, right? For big lengths of time. But wow. You're able to conclude. Here's my conclusion. Oh my God, the car and the phone. It's them. It's one. That car and that phone are together. And now think about this. Now, this is what you have an expert that has come into this case now saying, holy shit, whatever the hell y'all did here, it's inaccurate. It's not right. You're wrong. What data did you use? Remember Maori's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just came into this. Further review indicated the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th, 2022 that are consistent with the 845 phone leaving the area of the Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow, Idaho. What is this needed? Because remember, you're trying to show and prove that this phone and this car are one and the same, right? So then this is going to be my big boom. I've been asking for a very long time, where is the footage, the camera footage of this movement? Y'all say he went back there the next morning. Or he at least was in that area, right? You got this little like this little circle, 180 all the way around, right? Circle, circle, circle. So, I'm sorry, that'd be a 360. So here you go. That's the service to Moscow where he went. Where's the cameras that you picked up this white Elantra, traveling? Where is that? They couldn't find that white car within this little radius of where it's consistent with the phone and this. I mean, what is this? Wouldn't you go hunting? Wouldn't you go hunting for this? But this is what you're going to say. Further review indicated that the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources on November 13th that are consistent with the 8458 phone leaving the area of the Kohberger residence at approximately 9 a.m. and traveling to Moscow. Specifically, the 8458 phone utilized cellular resources that would provide coverage to the King Road residence. Why aren't you all? Do you know how 9 o'clock to 9:12? Do you know how fast you have to be driving to make that? You have to be flying. Unless you go from tip to tip, which means he's on like the tip of where the coverage would be. Could be a store, okay? But then, wait. So he's then in Moscow from 9:12 to 9:21. The 8458 phone next utilized cellular resources that are consistent with the 8458 phone traveling back to the area of the Kohberger residence and arriving to the area at approximately 9:32. So he basically went from tip to tip, if you really look at it. 9:21, it's like 11 minutes, 12 minutes from 9. So then when you actually go to that area, that's to the shops. I want to know how long it would take for you to get to, what is it over there? Like that Walmart, that Ross, I don't know what's over there. But there is no way that you are getting from Bryan's apartment to that house and then from that house to Bryan's apartment in that amount of time. But you're also staying on that cell tower until 9:21, but getting back to his. This is all bullshit. So remember, we're only on page 14. Below is the depiction, not to scale, of the possible route taken based off of a cellular site locations. Okay. And this is when he looks at this, Payne, and is like, I can't tell what that is. What is this? This is horrible. And then Aunt Taylor's like, yeah, right. Isn't it? Is that right? So here's the last page, page 15. And it says, investigators found that the 8458 phone did connect to a cellular phone tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, 2022. But investigators do not believe that the 8458 phone was in Moscow on that date. The 8458 phone has not connected to any towers that provided service to Moscow since that date. This is absurd. And then I said, wow, what a reach or a nationwide jump. Ready? Based on my training and experience, Payne says again, just crushing. Like all of this probable cause is based off of his training and experience. Oh, and the facts, of the investigation thus far, which is what? I believe that Kohberger, the user of the 8458 phone, was likely the driver of the white Elantra that is observed departing Pullman. Okay, I'm going to give you that. But that vehicle is not suspect vehicle 1, which is on Moscow's campus. Remember, those are the two that you're going to have to like that's why this is important. You need to show me, and this was the big boom here. He, in this paragraph, is saying, because like anybody else, well, how can you say that the car over there on the Pullman campus is the car that's on the Moscow campus? Like what? And this is it. It's just his belief and the facts of this case, which are what? IGG. Just the name. You were given the name Bryan Kohberger from additionally, the round of travel of the 8458 phone during the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, and the lack of the 8458 phone reporting to AT&T between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m. is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location. This is going to blow up in their faces. I've been to Idaho 3 times. It is the worst. I mean, the absolute worst for service. You do not get service out there. When we traveled from Pullman to Idaho's campus, Moscow, no. When I was driving through from Coeur d'Alene to Sandpoint to Bonners Ferry, I mean, it is horrible. Horrible. This is a fact. But right there, that's the end. That's period 15. This is what they used. 1 through 15 is what they used to get the pen trap trace. And then literally beginning from page 1 through 6 is going to be everything that they only had up until December 20th. December 19th. Pages 1 through 6. Get out of here. What did they do in this investigation? I about fell out of my seat when I saw this then. This was the I will end this live right here with this, which is the reply to the state's objection to the defendant's motion to suppress and memorandum in support. This is for the Pennsylvania search warrant for 119 Lambson Drive, Albright, Pennsylvania. First, it appears that the parties are in agreement on much of what the law applies to the search of a home. Several topics for Mr. Kohberger addresses are more fully developed. They say that. That leaves the issue of how federal and Pennsylvania law conducted their raid. The state tries to draw out its facts section by restating things several ways on page 6 and 7 of its objection, but it basically just boils down to, we knew he was in there and owned a gun, which of course is true of most Americans. The state cites to not a single case similar to the facts here. Instead, the state relies on a memorandum written by Police Sergeant Lang of the Pennsylvania State Police, apparently to justify their actions. This odd document, never before disclosed, appears to have been written in response to Mr. Kohberger's briefing and includes no date. Yay! I love it. You know why? Because before I dealt with Idaho, I dealt with PSP, and they are pathetic. No date, typical. Basically, the police tell us they had to destroy the house to save the car. Just can't. Or some other evidence from Mr. Kohberger's rubber gloves. No legal authority is provided. You guys, I fell over. Just because this is Jay Lawson, he's just snarky to the point that it's just like, basically, the police tell us they had to destroy the house to save the car or some other evidence, remember? Because remember, it's like, hey, we got to tell a judge that they're going to destroy evidence, so we need to take them at night and go in there blazing and point ARs, okay? Because that's the safest way to take this man. However, given that this statement now exists, the court can compare this scenario with any number of cases. Just a couple of examples. Here you go. Then I say to myself, okay, because I was just curious of this, why would anybody want to do a no-knock? Like, I would just think that's dangerous for a lot of people involved, especially if you think that they're armed and I don't know, like it'd be a shootout or, Bryan lived there with other people or was staying there with other people. He goes on runs. Take that fucker out by the legs on his run. You know what I mean? So here the police were concerned about making a hasty knock and announce, which apparently meant no knock and yelling from their bearcat because Mr. Kohberger was wearing the same gloves millions of homeowners wear to do the dishes. So they're saying he had gloves on supposedly, and oh my God, it's like he had, a gun basically. Woo. That's what, this is where they're. So 2 more things of note. According to the police, they had snipers watching Mr. Kohberger go from room to room, obviously greatly reducing his chances of posing much of a threat. Same what they did with Brett Kopaka. And although the state oddly claims it is not true, the FBI had been surveying Mr. Kohberger since December 21st, 2022. But so this is where there's a huge discrepancy. We were not surveying him, We were not surveying him. The FBI had been surveying, according, December, and had many occasions to take him into custody. The state had identified Mr. Kohberger. This is where I was just like, thank you so much. This is the nugget I needed. On December 19th, 2022, through investigative genealogy. The state had obtained aerial photographs of the Kohberger residence on December 21st, 2022. You guys, don't you think at all that you would have went by, like, where's there any talks about that we drove by Kohberger's apartment where he lived at 1630 and we were there on a couple different occasions and we didn't see a white Honda Elantra? we knocked on the door, nobody was there, or we were watching it and nobody was coming and going. Or wait, he's a student, so it's, it's the holiday. It's like, Jesus. So here it is so not only did you know who he was on December 19th, the state had then obtained aerial photographs of the Kohberger residence on December 21st. Then the state had driven by the Kohberger residence on December 23rd. They drove by and followed Mr. Kohberger on December 24th. Cameras were placed on his parents' property on December 25th, 2022, and trash was taken from the property on December 27th, 2022. What cameras were placed on his property, on his parents' property? The state seems to accept that a failure to abide by law as to knocking and announcing leads to the exclusion of what was found in Mr. Kohberger's parents' home. You guys, where are these cameras? I want this camera footage. Nobody was wearing body cam, but by God, they just set up what? Night vision? Night vision cameras on the Kohberger property? Anyways, I don't even know why. For what purpose? How do you even set up some cameras on somebody else's property? Anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. And Dinky, all of you people out there, all the mods, this is just, when you break it on down, now we can finally say that this probable cause affidavit here, pages 1 through 6 is all they had until Bryan's name is known on the 19th, according to law enforcement. Okay. And then you go look at these other pages, because then page 16, on December 23, I was granted a search warrant for Kohberger's historical CLI from June. Yep. And a pen, registry, trap, and trace. So that's how you know, like this was only written after that point. So this exhibit A, was something that was just added to over time, when they were putting in their search warrants and their probable cause affidavits. It was this is why it was always interchangeable. Is that Mowry's? Is that Payne's? Is that Blaker's? It's the same one, and they were just adding to it. They were all passing it around, and then you're adding whatever you have. Here starts your paragraph, and then there you go, turn in. That's why when I was looking at this and I said, what does any of this shit have to do with the arrest of Bryan Kohberger? There is so much shit in there that is not needed for the arrest of Bryan. But now what I just realized is, at the end of the day, the Reddit was so important that somebody made a big boo-boo and went and obtained a search warrant, but they were like, no, you cannot serve that yet. You cannot serve that yet. Okay, then they waited till December 1st to serve it. Why? Well, because we found Bryan Kohberger's car before then. But now they're acting like they didn't know that they found the car. You guys, this is all bullshit. I call bullshit on all of it. So sloppy. You got Lawrence Mowry's name up top of this shit. You got Payne's name down here. It's how I would ever be in possession of your template that you're not even supposed to be using to make search warrants or do whatever. And then the name that you have attached to, oh, here it is. To this shit right here. I love it. Ashley Jennings puts her name all over the pen, trap, and trace, and I'm just absolutely in love with it. Because all you would have to do is just look at the first page, Ashley, to say, I'm not signing this. Payne, how is your name here? How is your name here? And it's the affidavit of Mowry. I mean, give me a break. Like, no, guys, go clean this up. Put your name here. I mean, she would have looked at this. And if she didn't, shame on her, which clearly she didn't, or she just didn't, she doesn't know who Payne is, and she doesn't know who Mowry is. And she thinks they're interchangeable. They're the same person. That's just his nickname. I think that somebody asked me the other day, well, do you think any sanctions should come? Well, I think the only sanctions that if all of this is true and this is just so ridiculous, or if the defense is just lying their asses off in all this paperwork. And I'm tending to go with, honestly, I don't think the defense is lying. I do know that they're doing their job with it's a formality that you have to like fight hard for your client, get stuff thrown out, any way you can. But I personally believe, based on my personal experience with Idaho, that there is a huge problem with law enforcement being truthful. And so I think that these prosecutors should not prosecute this case. And I think that that's why they had a big closed meeting about who was going to be prosecuting this case, and that you're just going to use the Attorney General's office and everybody that works there at their leisure to do this case. Because I think this is prosecutorial misconduct. I think this is 100%. If it's ever happened out there, this would be a case that it happened. I think if the defense is lying, they should be reprimanded. Just like if I think the state's lying, they should be reprimanded. So I don't know if Bryan Kohberger is innocent or guilty. If I could tell you right now, I think this doesn't happen in cases. I think this is extraordinary. Okay. If this happened all the time, or we wouldn't be looking at all these documents, it's like the Richard Allen case. Like, I think that that's extraordinary. Somebody to not allow that man to have a proper defense, a third party culpability, and to not be able to say the name Anthony Schatz and Keegan Klein, that's ridiculous. So, but you're always going to have police officers and lawyers, especially defense lawyers, on the opposite end of every single argument. So that's, and then it comes down to what? The judge who's the referee who makes the decision. Well, guess who pays for those judges to basically have their spot? Guess who endorses them? It's all political. It's sad. Peace out. I'll be back later. Go have some fun. Woo! Again, thank you, moderators. Appreciate you guys. This November 29th, 4 people that were murdered, and you want Jen. You got 7, 8 families that are being affected by this, and they just mean nobody from the university.
Shock value. And so what he did was he had taken pictures of California.
Oh, you're from I would be outraged if I lived in Moscow right now. I'd be lighting some cars on fire out there. I'd be flipping some cars. I'd get the frats going wild with me. Let's get some noise complaints going.